So let me ask you guys a couple more questions here.
Right.
So now,
Sorry, we won't keep
oh, no, no,
interviewing
no.
you.
It's all good. I love talking about this stuff. So now, what was after everything you guys did, let's jump to the end real fast and say, what did you walk away from Scientology thinking? What was your takeaway?
My takeaway was like, I had no idea how boring this religion is. Because you hear about how abusive it can be, and you hear from the true believers how rewarding it can be. But I did not know how truly boring it can be. I mean, it outdoes mass, it outdoes church service, it outdoes meditate. Like, I've done these like mini hour-long meditation services where you literally sit there and do nothing. That's more entertaining. I mean, sitting and auditing for hours in an unpleasant room with halogen lights while Ross makes you recount the story of your dog dying is unpleasant, but then becomes just unbearably boring. I mean, to the point that like I felt like I was facing my mortality. I was like, this is what I'm doing with my day. I feel like my day is wasted in this deep, meaningful way. Like, I have not done a thing with this day. This day will not amount to anything. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, some people feel this way about weeks or months or years of their life that they spent doing this nonsense. And that's just like a deeply troubling thought to me. The mundaneness, what's that word? Mundaneness,
Mundacity?
mundacity. Is that it?
Probably.
No, that's lying.
Yeah.
Mundanity? I don't know.
Mundane.
Yeah.
Anyway, thatness of it.
State or quality of
Just-
being mundane.
Yeah, is awful.
That's interesting that you would highlight the boringness. I did get to, and I feel that I and Carrie have extremely high tolerance for just people sharing strange ideas with us, and I feel that's something that makes me stand out from most of the crowd. Is that sure? I'll listen to your 4-hour sermon, and I'll either I will get something from it or I will be entertained, like picking apart the format in which you presented it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of mental thing that will go on for me at that time. I did have 2 moments during Scientology where I just got really like upset, like I am here, I don't want to be here, this is getting old, I want out, but I can't get out. And for Scientology to be able to do that to me twice, I think says a lot. But I didn't leave so much with that as just a feeling of like being sad and impressed at the same time. I was really sad because I now kind of look at that building, Sea Org, where we spent most of our, the LA Org, where we spent most of our time, and I see it as being full of a lot of victims of a really cleverly contrived system where there's so many checks and balances. No, just checks. There's so many checks that are like just keeping people doing the same thing over and over and being constantly scrutinized and feeling so much pressure. And still, when I go down there, I see so many people like smoking cigarettes, and that just floors me, with this whole purification rundown thing that you have all these people smoking. But anyways, I feel really sad, and I feel like there's a lot of sadness that goes unexpressed. And at the same time, I'm super impressed with how well L. Ron Hubbard set it up, that's been sustained for so long.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy within the belief system or within the structure of Scientology that they're trained into not thinking critically about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually part of the process of the indoctrination of Scientology to learn to not be a critical thinker. In fact, I think it was in your last or second to last episode where you quoted from at the Sunday service, and this is like here's an example of the indoctrination I'm talking about, where they quote from On Personal Integrity, where they go through this whole litany of you should observe and you should observe being observed, and all this. And then they go, but then he cleverly puts in there, and in fact, this is one of the things I'd forgotten about until I was listening to your podcast. But, and we should learn to observe, not necessarily critically and not necessarily with a critical eye, right? Or with
Yeah.
skeptic, not necessarily a skeptical eye, right? Or something, whatever he says there.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but again, he's just subtly reinforcing, don't be critical.
Right.
Don't be skeptic.
Right.
Don't necessarily have an open mind. He
That
hates
is all.
that, right?
Don't actually do it in a useful way.
Exactly.
Not in a way that would at all, contradict or take away my power here.
Right.
Well, exactly. And Scientologists think that litany, that on personal integrity thing, is one of the best things Hubbard ever wrote. They just think it's like this amazing, wonderful thing because they have personal integrity. It's like this
Right.
bedrock of solid certainty that they have, and they call that integrity when in fact it's really just a complete and utter lack of critical thinking. And
Speaking of contradictions and nice things L. Ron Hubbard wrote, one of those kind of foundational tenets for the church, the statement of human rights, inalienable human rights, is that we have the ability to comment on the beliefs of others. How do they, not let that apply to Scientology itself?
well, the Scientology is built on this idea that it's the science of certainty. And so you're supposed to be certain about the things that Scientology teaches you. So it sort of establishes itself as a filter through which you look to judge and evaluate the rest of the world. So you would never question Scientology itself.
Because that's the science of knowledge.
Exactly. Probably, maybe a similar analogy that people might be able to think with might be how we are raised as Americans. And so everything that we as Americans do when we look at the world, we look at it as Americans, right?
Or as Westerners, at least, yeah.
Well, yeah, because we have, as in the United States, we have a Bill of Rights. We have this Constitution. And that's what makes us Americans, is really that we are living under this government. But we're indoctrinated from day one growing up in the United States that this is the best government form ever, right? That this is the pinnacle of human endeavor and governmental forms, and nothing else could possibly be better than this. So, because we're indoctrinated with that from such a young age, it becomes this unconscious filter with which you look at the rest of the world, and you constantly compare UK, Russia, Czechoslovakia, any other country. You'd always be looking at it from, well, they don't have a Bill of Rights.
Right. From an assumption that, well, this is wrong, let's evaluate, let's unpack how it's wrong.
Right.
So that would be the Scientologist standpoint is, okay, well, they are wrong, let's figure out how they're wrong.
Exactly.